Molech, also referred to as Molech or Malik, was a widely feared god, worshipped primarily by the Ammonites, but influential in Israelite religion as well, especially during periods of syncretism. His cult is infamous in the Bible due to its association with child sacrifice, where infants and young children were offered as burnt offerings to secure blessings or favor. The ritual likely involved burning the children in a hollow statue or furnace, an act strongly condemned in Mosaic law and repeatedly denounced by the prophets. Despite this, some kings of Israel, under foreign cultural pressures, tolerated or even institutionalized Molech worship, creating a direct violation of Yahweh's commandments. Archaeologically, the Valley of Hinnom, Gehenna, where Molech worship occurred, became symbolic in Jewish thought as a metaphor for hell or divine punishment.
Bel and Nebo. Bel, a title meaning Lord, was primarily used for Marduk, the supreme god of Babylon and the central figure in Babylonian religion. Marduk was revered as the creator of the universe, the king of the gods, and a deity embodying cosmic order and Babylonian imperial power. His temple, Esagila, stood as a monument to his dominance and the strength of the Babylonian Empire. Nebo, often called Nabu, was considered the son of Marduk and worshipped as the god of wisdom, writing, and destiny. He held a stylus in depictions symbolizing his role as the divine scribe who inscribed human fate. Nebo's temple in Borsippa was a sacred center for scribal training and religious worship. The Bible mocks both Bel and Nebo, particularly in Isaiah 46, 1-2, where it states, "Bel bows down, Nebo stoops low. Their idols are borne by beasts of burden." This passage illustrates the impotence and eventual downfall of these Babylonian gods in the face of Yahweh's judgment. Jeremiah also prophesies the shame and terror that will come upon Bel and Nebo when Babylon falls to the Persians. Bel and Nebo retain their significance in the Bible as representatives of pagan idol worship, highlighting the futility of placing trust in gods other than Yahweh, who alone holds ultimate sovereignty.
Baal, Baal meaning Lord or Master, was the supreme storm and fertility god of the Canaanites and Phoenicians. His worship was deeply rooted in ensuring the fertility of the land, agricultural success, and human reproduction, vital concerns in the agrarian societies of the ancient Near East. Baal was imagined as a powerful warrior deity, often depicted holding a lightning bolt symbolizing his command over storms, thunder, and rain, which were essential for crops. The mythology of Baal describes him as a heroic figure locked in an eternal struggle with Mot, the god of death and sterility. The annual victory of Baal over Mot ensured the cyclical return of fertility to the earth and the continuation of life. Baal's consorts, including the goddesses Ashtoreth and Anat, were worshipped alongside him, emphasizing fertility and war. The worship of Baal in Israel became widespread, especially under King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, whose support of Baal worship brought significant foreign religious influence into the kingdom. Baal worship included various rituals such as animal sacrifices, ecstatic ceremonies, and at times human sacrifices, including children, which Israelite law prohibited and condemned severely. The prophet Elijah confronted Baal's prophets on Mount Carmel in a dramatic showdown designed to prove Yahweh's supremacy. Despite the frantic prayers and rituals of Baal's 450 priests, no response came until Elijah prayed once. Then fire from heaven consumed his water-soaked sacrifice, issuing a definitive judgment on Baal's impotence and affirming Yahweh as the one true God. Baal's worship was also connected to sexual immorality and temple prostitution, ritualistic acts intended to invoke fertility but viewed by Israelite prophets as defilement and spiritual betrayal. His influence faded as monotheism grew, but left a lasting legacy as a chief symbol of idolatry in biblical texts.
Dagon, or Dion, was the chief deity of the Philistines, worshipped predominantly as a god of grain, agriculture, and fertility, a vital figure for the coastal agrarian Philistine culture. While some ancient texts and later popular culture identify Dagon as a fish god, biblical and archaeological evidence primarily associate him with grain and agriculture, though his worship was complex and multifaceted. Temples dedicated to Dagon existed in key Philistine cities such as Ashdod, Gaza, and Beth Dagon, serving as religious and cultural centers. The Bible describes how the Philistines captured the Ark of the Covenant and placed it in Dagon's temple in Ashdod. Miraculously, the statue of Dagon fell face down before the ark 2 mornings in a row, the second time with its head and hands broken off, symbolizing Yahweh's power and judgment over this false god. Dagon's worship involved sacrifices, feasts, and festivals to secure agricultural prosperity and military success. One dramatic biblical episode includes the celebration of Samson's captivity at Dagon's temple in Gaza, where Samson prayed for strength and pulled down the temple pillars, killing himself and thousands of Philistines, striking a profound blow to Dagon's cult. Though specific rituals of Dagon's worship remain partially speculative due to scant historical records, it is clear that his cult played a significant role in Philistine society and in the spiritual conflicts documented in the Bible.
Chemosh. Chemosh was the national god of the Moabites, a people closely related and geographically adjacent to the ancient Israelites. Unlike some deities primarily associated with fertility or storms, Chemosh's primary role was as a war god and protector of Moab. He was believed to determine victory or defeat in battle, making him central to Moabite national identity and military hopes. Worship of Chemosh included the construction of temples, sanctuaries, and high places dedicated to him. Moabite kings, including King Mesha, attributed their military successes and failures to Chemosh's favor or wrath. The famous Moabite stone, Mesha Steer, records King Mesha's vow and military campaigns, crediting Chemosh for victories and recounting acts of devotion, including the slaughter of enemy populations in Chemosh's name. The Bible condemns Chemosh's cult as abominable and idolatrous. It recounts how King Solomon, influenced by his foreign wives, built high places for Chemosh alongside other foreign gods. Later, King Josiah of Judah launched a religious reformation, destroying Chemosh's high places and purging his worship from Israelite territory. Human and animal sacrifices formed part of Chemosh's worship, including the notorious account of King Mesha sacrificing his firstborn son on the city wall to gain Chemosh's favor in battle. This act symbolizes the extreme and tragic dimensions of idolatry in the ancient Near East and serves as a stark warning in biblical texts.
The Golden Calf. The story of the Golden Calf is one of the most iconic and cautionary tales of Israelite idolatry, found in Exodus 32. While Moses was on Mount Sinai for 40 days and nights receiving the 10 Commandments, the people grew restless and feared he had died. They turned to Aaron, Moses' brother, and asked him to craft a tangible god to lead them, reflecting the influence of the Egyptian polytheistic environment from which they had just been delivered. Aaron collected their gold jewelry and melted it down to create a golden calf, declaring it the god who brought them out of Egypt. The calf symbolized strength and fertility, common attributes of bulls and calves in nearby cultures, including Egypt, where bull deities like Apis were revered. The Israelites offered sacrifices and engaged in revelry around the idol, an act of blatant violation of the commandment forbidding the making and worship of idols. When Moses returned and saw the scene, he shattered the stone tablets inscribed with the commandments in anger, burned the golden calf, ground it into powder, scattered it on water, and forced the people to drink it. This act symbolized the severity of their sin and its consequences. The golden calf incident reveals the Israelites' wavering faith and susceptibility to idolatry, despite witnessing undeniable miracles. It set a precedent for future struggles with false gods and the need for persistent prophetic leadership and covenant renewal. The Levites, who remained loyal to Yahweh, carried out a purge of the idolatries, emphasizing the stark division between faithfulness and idolatry.
Nisroch. Nisroch is mentioned in the Bible as an Assyrian god, specifically in the context of King Sennacherib worshiping in his temple when he was assassinated by his own sons, 2 Kings 19:37, Isaiah 37:38. Although little external archaeological evidence directly identifies a deity named Nisroch, some scholars suggest it may be a scribal error or corruption of another Assyrian god's name, potentially Ninurta or Nusku, associated with aspects of war, agriculture, or fire. The biblical narrative highlights Nisroch's temple as not only a place of worship, but also a locus of political intrigue, showcasing the tense intersection of religion and power in the ancient Near East. Nisroch's impotence compared to Yahweh's is implicit in Sennacherib's downfall in his temple, underscoring the Bible's theme that idols offer no true protection.
Rimmon, often identified with Hadad, was the prominent Syrian god of storms, rain, and fertility. His worship was deeply embedded in the culture and governance of Syria, so much so that even those devoted to Yahweh faced tension in official duties requiring they bow in Rimmon's temple. Hadad, as a storm god, held sway over rain and agricultural fertility, critical to life and prosperity in the ancient Near East. Biblical accounts recount the healing of Naam, the Syrian commander afflicted with leprosy, who, upon his recovery, pledged allegiance to Yahweh, yet expressed the dilemma of continuing protocol in Rimmon's temple, 2 Kings 5. This narrative exemplifies the complex cultural entanglements Israelite and neighboring peoples had with false gods, reflecting how idolatry was deeply woven into the social fabric of both Israel and its neighbors.
The Divine Council and Nephilim. The Bible contains intriguing references to a divine council, an assembly of spiritual beings often called the sons of God or Elohim. This council functions as a heavenly court where Yahweh reigns as supreme judge. Psalm 82 portrays God standing among these gods, judging their injustice and decreeing that they shall die like mere mortals, emphasizing their limited authority and eventual downfall. These beings are understood to be lesser divine powers under Yahweh's command, unlike the polytheistic myths where gods compete for supremacy. The Nephilim are among the most mysterious biblical figures, described as the offspring of these divine beings and human women. Often interpreted as giants or mighty warriors, the Nephilim symbolize the blurring of divine and human boundaries and the increasing corruption of the earth before the flood. Their existence highlights the spiritual downfall requiring divine judgment and cleansing.
Other regional gods. The Bible lists numerous other false gods worshipped by nations around Israel, especially after the Assyrian resettlements. These include deities such as Sakut, Benoth, Nergal, Ashima, Nebahaz, Tartak, Adrammelech, and Anammelech. Many of these gods demanded child sacrifices or other abominable rites that further corrupted Israelite worship. Their presence in Israelite culture illustrates how idolatry was entrenched not only through Israel's own disobedience, but also through imposed pagan traditions by conquering nations.
Want to understand the Bible more deeply? Keep growing in God's Word. Watch this next video.